Доброго вечора усім.
Good evening, dear guests. We are happy to have such numerous audience, regardless the fact that we have quite a few events in September, but today's event is special. My name is Irina Sklokina. I work for the Center of Urban History, and today we have honor and privilege to host Arlie Russell Hochschild, who is Professor Emerita of Sociology at the University of California, Berkeley, and the author of numerous books that are about submerging into everyday's life, human experience, people who are our contemporary, and books that have quite deep historical context, historical angles, and that are about sociological, political topics that relate daily experience with the issues ranging from global capitalism, migration, deindustrialization, regional discrepancies, and conflict of identity, etc. Everything that resonates to us, the Ukrainians. I'd like to use the opportunity and express my words of gratitude to dear Professor for this gift that she kindly provided to our laboratory. So you are very welcome to read this book as well as her other books. We also have her other book, which is a prequel to Stolen Pride, The Outsourced Self. It's about the anger and sorrow of the American right. It's about the first mandate of President Trump. This is probably a closer aspect to us, the second mandate of President Trump, but this book is not limited with the political focus or some political aspects of political life, but it's a very deep one. It's a deep research of human psychology, human experience, and the way the global policy is made. The lecture is going to be in English. If need be, please use headsets, and you will listen to simultaneous interpretation into Ukrainian. After the lecture, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please use the mic. Otherwise, our interpreter will not be able to hear you and translate your question if you do it without the microphone. With this, let's get started. Welcome. Over to you, Arlie.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You have to sit down so the microphones speak in.
Okay. Let me hold up this. Thank you very much.
Take your earphones.
Okay. Thank you very much. My husband here, Adam, and I are really delighted to be here among friends, new friends, and allies. We are here in part in solidarity with you in the struggle that you're engaged in with Russia, and to share with you a bit the struggle that we are in internally with President Trump. So there is a parallel. We're facing conflicts, and I would like first to share with you a journey I recently took to Appalachia in the middle of the United States, and to try and find out how Donald Trump and the right wing came to appeal to so many Americans. And so I'm going to take you, first of all, on a journey that I myself went on for about 6-7 years back and forth, that I went from my home in Berkeley, California, which is a very Democratic bubble, to Pikeville, Kentucky, which is a very Republican bubble, and are a very divided country. So first I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to talk about what has happened after Donald Trump has begun his second term. And then I'd like to open out a discussion, because I think the question that's on our minds is, how do we get out of the mess we're in? So this is a talk about how we got into the mess. What I'd like to talk about is how we can get out of it. So, actually, I'm just going to sit down. Let's see it. So, this is a sign on a house that is in a home in Kentucky. You can see the red spot, and this is in the interior of America. In general, the middle of America is pro-Trump, and the coasts are anti-Trump. So we're going to, in a way, the heartbeat of the MAGA, Make America Great Again, Republican movement. Okay, this is Kentucky, but the green part is eastern Kentucky. And the green part is actually the whitest and second poorest congressional district in the United States. And here's what it looks like. You get in the car and you think, how beautiful. What could be the problem? These mountains are exquisite, and people live at the bottoms of these mountains, in the little valleys, in tiny little hamlets that they call hollers, as in hollow, holler. And this is a hub town. That is a kind of central town in Pikeville, Kentucky. Everything looks fine. Beautiful little town. They even have special pictures of children who have just graduated from high school. Proudly. And that is the town. Many people told us, oh, Pikeville, they're rich. You have to go to the hollers. That's where we live, and we're poor. So it isn't just the difference between New York and Kentucky. Even within Kentucky, there's a difference between the town and the hollers. And this is a picture of life in a holler. Wherever I drove, there was a dog in the middle of the road. And he didn't move quickly. He wasn't used to being asked to move. And when you drive in such an area, left and right, everybody knows the stranger is there. Sometimes these hollers have space for gardens, and you will see corn growing. But in those mountains is coal. And people used to say, oh, coal, we kept the lights on in America. We're proud of our coal. We won World War I. We won World War II. And this was difficult work. And men earned good wages doing it. It was and if you drove a coal truck, on the back of the truck was a message. I love coal. Or, I dig coal. This is an example of the entrance to a coal mine. These are coal miners, and they feel proud to have black faces because it meant I'm working at a tough job, at a dangerous job, actually something of a deathly job. If you breathe in this black coal, you're likely to get what's called black lung and to die early. And the men who go into mining know that when they go in. So it's a source of pride. And as I continued my work, I began to think not just about who's rich and who's poor, and who's rural and who's urban, and who's Republican and who's Democrat, but who's proud and who's ashamed. In other words, part of my work is to bring a perspective. It's to take you to a place, but it's also to introduce a way of thinking about politics wherever you are, that puts emotion in the story. So it's an invitation for us all to think not only about reason, how a person talks in what they mean in the language of reason, but also how they talk in the language of emotion. And in the situation that we are in today, it's especially important to understand the second language of emotion. So these men are proud. And here you can see they have a certain diffidence. They're used to being criticized because since President Obama introduced the Clean Air Act, which discouraged dirty industry, they feel like their pride is being hurt. So Friends of Coal, down below, is an industrial association, as you can imagine. Okay. So what has happened is that coal has gone down. Coal jobs since the 1990s have gone down, down, and down, and down. They are about 10% of the jobs in coal that used to be available in the 1970s. So many people have had to leave. If you couldn't get a good job, if the coal mines closed, you had to go usually to industrial centers in the Midwest, like Cincinnati, Toledo, Chicago. Okay, as coal jobs began to leave, opiate crisis began to come in, and it began with a company in New York called Purdue that sold pain medications. And many coal miners get injuries, they go to the doctor to get pain relief. And OxyContin was a pill that was prescribed, but it was addictive. They lied, the doctors lied, the company lied about this, so that many coal miners, as they became unemployed, became addicted. So coal jobs went out, and a pride in working in an important industry went down. People became ashamed and depressed, and addiction became very common. Every family that I talked, every family member I talked to mentioned someone that was addicted or who had died. In the newspaper, on the back page of the local newspaper, you saw some pictures in the obituary column, where a picture of a young man, and he had died. And he told what school he went to, his family, but it didn't mention why he had died. Shame. These are the pills. And a strange thing has happened. Generally, among all Americans, life expectancy has gone up through time over the last 30 years. But there's one group where life expectancy has gone down, and that is blue collar, that is non-college educated white men. And their death rate has gone up. Men in prime age are likely to, more likely than other groups, to die of what are called diseases of despair. That is alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicide. I was taken around to cemeteries, and you can see from the ages of birth to death that these were young deaths. Okay, this is now, we're moving to politics. And the pink squares are the Republican squares. I'm going to come to the connection there. Okay, here meet a man who said to me when I first met him, "I'm trailer trash, okay?" What he meant is, I live in a trailer and I'm nobody. I'm like trash. And he told me about his life. He grew up in a trailer that's like a little bit of a bus. And with others around, there was a murder of a woman 3 trailers down. His parents didn't let him open the door of the trailer because his uncle was an addict and would come in and steal money. His father was disabled and on welfare, and that's another source of shame. You're not supposed to take money from the government, you're supposed to earn it. And so he said, he told me about pride, and he said this: there's no narrative that is a public understanding for a guy like me. If you look at a white man who's in middle class, you say, oh, how proud he can be. He worked hard for the American dream. He got the American dream. Good for him. If you look at a black man, he's poor. Why is he poor? That's because of racism in America. And so you say, oh, racism is a problem, but it's not his fault. But what about me, he said. I'm white, that's a privilege. I'm male, that's a privilege. But I'm poor. So I must be poor because I'm lazy and I'm not working or I'm stupid. So if you look at pride, the white, poor, rural male is feeling shame. He then said, I have a friend who is black, and I said, you know, where I live it's poor, where he lives it's poor. Where I live, a lot of men go to jail. Where he lives, a lot of men go to jail. Where I live, many people are addicted. Where he lives, which is the inner city of Chicago, ghetto, many people go to jail. I dropped out of high school. He dropped out of high school. He said there's no difference between us except the music. And we have a kind of a tragic, twangy string bluegrass music. I don't know if you've heard bluegrass music. But in the ghetto, they have rap, rapid, angry music. That's the only difference between us. I interviewed another man, and I made this comment, how is it for you? He said, oh, you haven't heard about hillbilly rap? In other words, there's a new kind of music in the hills that is like rap and ghetto music. And it made me feel that the musicians know more about social class than the politicians do. So there are the proud, and then there are the shamed. And I'm wanting to let me say one more story. I met a man who had been a heroin addict for 12 years. And I met him when he was first in recovery from this addiction. And I told him I was interested in the emotions that people feel that predispose them to Trump's rhetoric. And he said, let me tell you about how it is for us in this area. He said, first a man is working in the coal mines, and then he gets laid off, and he has no money to bring family. And he's supposed to then leave the area. What if he doesn't want to leave? What if he doesn't know anyone in the nearest big city? What if the factory jobs there are also closing down? And his wife will say, you better go. And then he goes, but let's say he comes back empty-handed. He's shamed of that. So he's shamed that he lost his job, shamed that he didn't go out and get another good job. And then there are low-paid jobs in Pikeville, Kentucky that he could take, but they are, quote, girly jobs. They're jobs for girls. They're not paid very much. You can't support a family on them. So he doesn't want to take those jobs. But it would be like scooping ice cream at an ice cream store or serving in a restaurant. And his wife said, we need money. So he takes that job anyway. And then his wife said, but that's not enough money. And so then suppose he gets into drugs and he gets addicted. She makes him leave. He loses custody of his children, and he's addicted. And as this young man telling me the stories said to me, take it from me, this man is ashamed. So the man that you see here is the man that told me this story. He is a recovering addict from heroin, and now he has recovered, and he is helping others to recover from. He's a very gifted healer. The man on this side is a recovering alcoholic whose own parents were alcoholic. And he too is now working, helping others to recover from alcohol addiction. And they are, in fact, leaders in the fight against diseases of despair in these declining areas. So this is just a comic picture, but what it says is that when you have a declining sector, and this goes for whites who are non-college, don't have a four-year degree, in rural, semi-rural areas. There's a picture of 3 decades of decline. And this is a picture of what happens when you turn to the Republican Party, it's not helping you, and you turn to the Democratic Party, conventional party, and you don't think it's helping you. And you see other sectors in America, urban sectors, the coasts, doing really well. And you're ashamed, you think you don't, and you can't get out of it. The appeal, all of this situation of what I call structural shame, it's nothing that each individual did wrong. They live in one industry area, and that industry is down and no other help. They are predisposed to be open to a magic man, to a charismatic leader who will promise them a way out of their dilemma. Not everyone in the United States that voted for Donald Trump is this poor, but they all feel loss relative to where they've been and relative to others they see around them. And they all feel shame. And we live in a very individualistic culture where people feel they should work hard and they should earn their way. And especially people in these rural areas blame themselves for this downward shift. Curiously, people in more prosperous areas where there's a high degree of education and actually have economic better news are more likely to have a circumstantial culture of pride, where they don't blame themselves if the industry goes down. They blame the industry. So it's a combination of bad economic news and a culture of blame that points to the self. That is the story of those who are most predisposed to look for a magic man. Okay, this is the magic man. And I'm going to suggest that what Donald Trump first does to the people like the two men you just met and saw, what he first does is appeal to a sense of recognition. I see who you are. I see that you have lost pride. And he talks about people by talking about the country. Oh, America has gone downhill, and it used to be great, and now it's a mess, and I will make America great again. Many people who listen to him say he's talking about me. He knows who I am. So first, there is Donald Trump's appeal to recognition. And I should say that once I met a man who had gone all the way down, lost his job, he tried other jobs, his wife, he divorced his wife, even became homeless. And he saw Donald Trump give a speech. And he said and Donald Trump said, oh, America's been way down in the dumps, I will lift it up. And I will bring back coal. I, Donald Trump, will bring to this region coal. I'll bring it back. He says everything 3 times, though. Back 3 times. And this man said, I knew Donald Trump was lying about the coal, but I felt he saw who I was. We have to listen to emotions. So beyond the appeal to recognition, I think he put forward a narrative of stolen pride. He said to people, you used to be proud, now you aren't proud. Why is that? Someone took it from you. And so, who is that? I will go after the pride thief and give you your pride back. That is the stolen pride narrative, shame to blame. But he also reinforces that narrative of stolen pride by what I call an anti-shaming ritual. And this ritual has 4 moments. In moment 1 of Donald Trump's anti-shaming ritual, he says something outrageous, something unheard, something crazy, something that transgresses the usual rules. And here he is in moment 1. Okay, now, clicker. Oh.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. Not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Moment one of Donald Trump's right-wing anti-shaming ritual. Okay, we'll move on to moment two. This is Joe Biden's press secretary.
Pikeville, Ohio Police Department has debunked this very bizarre and very hateful smear that's out there. What is happening here is an attempt to tear apart communities and disrespect, let's not forget, also disrespecting law enforcement, and that is the opposite of what our country deserves. It is undignified and an insult to all of us as Americans, not just one community, but to all of us as Americans. And it is spreading filth that makes the lives of the communities that are being smeared here, it puts their lives in danger. And it is just hateful speech. That's what it is.
So we have Donald Trump saying something outrageous and untrue, that Haitian immigrants are eating people's pet cats and dogs. And now we have moment two, important official, the president, is shaming Donald Trump. Okay? And this is a political shamer, but there's also a comedy, as a comedian who also shames him. Roy Wood is a comedian.
Roy Wood Jr., have I got news for you Saturday night, CNN? I have one question about the debate. I know there's a lot I could talk about. Trump getting fact-checked, Kamala's facial expressions, Trump getting thrown off his game, his ego, talking about how his rallies have the most people.
People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies.
I just want to know about the dogs.
They're eating the dogs.
Y'all really believe that? Like, out of all of the disinformation this election, you really believe that black immigrants are eating rural white people's animals?
The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
In the streets, just walking with a dog, big dog in their hand, and then just, you really believe in rural America, where they love animals and they love guns, that they're just gonna let random black people come and take their dog and turn into some coconut and mango chihuahua without revenge? That's what you think is happening. You think somebody who loves the animal and got a gun is gonna let somebody take their dog and ain't gonna do nothing about it but go on Facebook and whine? If Haitians was eating white people's dogs, it'd be a bunch of dead Haitians in the street. It ain't happening. Okay?
So we have outrageous statement by Donald Trump, moment one. We have all kinds of shaming, moment two. And then we have a third moment. And this is a moment in which Donald Trump becomes the victim of the shamers. Oh, look how they're beating up on me. Do you know how hard that is to have people criticize you, make fun of you? Don't you, my followers, know how that is to feel people looking down on you, that you're uneducated and poor, rural? Doesn't that feel awful? I am taking your shame off of you onto myself. It hurts. It's not easy for me to do this, but I will. Moment three, Donald Trump, the victim. And here we are.
I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. That's an amazing phenomenon. But when I announced my presidency in 2015, I said they're not sending their best, and I took such heat. How dare he say that? This is America. Well, it turned out that what I said was like peanuts compared to the fact. I said they're sending people that have lots of problems, which they definitely do. They're sending people and bringing those problems with them, and they're bringing drugs, and they're bringing crime, and they're rapists. Okay. So I made that statement. and I got hell knocked out of me by the fake news. Look how many you have back.
So, moment 3 of Donald Trump's anti-shaming ritual, he is the victim. People are beating up on him. And moment 4, the moment we're in his second term, is the roar back. Here we have it.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior, I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Okay. We are now in stage, in a later stage of Donald Trump's emotional regime, gone from appealing to people, to putting out a narrative of stolen pride, to again and again repeating a kind of anti-shaming ritual which relieves people of their shame, makes them feel elated, wins many followers. He makes, as we know now, many deals with the high and the mighty, and this is billionaire Elon Musk. And what's now happened is he has reduced Medicaid. This is medical aid for poor people. Some half of the people in Kentucky 5, this whitest and second poorest congressional region in the country, are on Medicaid. They don't have another source of medical care. Food stamps have been cut. Again, this is a region that needs them. After-school programs cut. So the very people who most support him, 80% of the people in this district that this book is about, for the last 3 elections, voted for Donald Trump. And these are people who have not always been Republicans. They were Franklin Delano Roosevelt New Deal Democrats. They were Bill Clinton Democrats. But given this loss, given the absence of answers to it, given their own shame, using the rhetoric of pride, we have Donald Trump, and now he's taking from them the very things they need. And he's found his enemy, first in non-documented immigrants. So he's taken from good things, and he's added to harsh, bad things, punitive. This is the retribution against immigrants. But of course, it's not just immigrants that are his enemy. In fact, anyone who is an enemy or who disagrees with him is being an enemy. So let me just end this portion of this talk by saying we are now at a stage where we've gone, where Donald Trump has won enough Americans to his side to establish power. He is, as we all watch daily, increasing that power as we speak. And we're in a new stage. We're in the middle of retribution. Our country has been divided into us and them, And I think with the Charlie Kirk killings, we may be at a new cultural moment of galvanizing excitement about people that seem like us, who are white and Midwestern especially, and who are Christian and highly religious. That is kind of the core of Donald Trump's us. Them, on the other hand, starts with non-Native Americans, but it is quickly extended to anyone, in fact, who disagrees with Trump. And he started with the press that he hates and political enemies that he hates. And now, you know, I woke up thinking this morning, here Adam and I are in Ukraine, where the brave people that we are getting to know and admire here have these drone attacks, and drones that are on municipal dumps, the apartment buildings, bridges. But in America, we're suffering cultural drone attacks on our comedians like Jimmy Kimmel, you know, and cultural drone attack on universities, like Harvard and Berkeley, where we both teach. And it's a different experience. And one thing that I guess I would love us to talk about is where do we go from here? How do we, I've explained how I think we got into this mess, but the question we as Americans face is how do we get out of it? Actually, a majority of Americans don't approve of Donald Trump right now, but you wouldn't know that if you talk to a lot of people, because we have work to do. Let me just end here by saying that that actually I think while your country is being attacked from outside, our country is being divided and attacked from inside. And I feel like there are many people that are on the left like us, but that the left is quite divided in our country. And people have said about the United States, it's like a frog sitting in a pot, and the heat is getting more and more extreme, but the frog isn't jumping out. And seeing our country from here, I can see how it does look like that. And Adam and I have been very moved and admiring to see at 9 o'clock all Ukrainians stand at the door of their apartment and in unity. So I think we have a lot to learn from you. Let me stop there and we can open it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very lively and very impressive presentation, and I welcome your questions or comments. Будь ласка, ваші питання, коментарі, ви можете говорити.
Questions, comments, you can use either Ukrainian or English as a language for communication.
So, is it correct from your point of view that the main reason why so many poor Americans not necessarily agree, but support Donald Trump is because they relate to him, like as a person, not as a person, but as an image that they present to the world.
Yes, I think his anti-shaming ritual and his shame-relieving narrative work for, I think that's right. And in this area that we've just come to know here, in Trump's 4 years of his first term, did he offer economic help? No. Coal did not come back. New jobs did not come in. Relief for opiate addicts, those services cut. If anything, economically, their lives went down, but emotionally, their lives went up.
Is it maybe because, in the essence, even before Trump came into power, the source of their pride wasn't, like, it was intensified by a kind of coping mechanism, based on the fact that their life is just so difficult, and they need to justify to themselves why they have to live in such a way, why they have to put all the responsibility on themselves, because the culture does not support individual value of a person, especially of a male person.
Right, but the question that leaves us with is why didn't they see anything for them in the Democratic Party, which, Joe Biden, for example, was allocating billions of dollars to red states, that is Republican states, in order to put in new jobs for like solar panels and windmills for green jobs. So for us, the paradox is that the real help came from the left. That is the economic help, more services, Medicaid, all of that. Both services and jobs were on offer from the Democrats, but a rhetoric that spoke to shame and gave pride was on offer from the Republicans. And that's the paradox that I think we face, but it shows us the importance of emotional appeal.
I guess it goes to say that maybe a main problem that isn't addressed by the left enough is that people of the working class that don't get college education, that don't get learning opportunities, that are just concerned with meeting their basic needs, they aren't actually able to understand the help that is going towards them, especially like things aimed at improving their environment.
They know. And they're not stupid. They're very brilliant. But it's not as important as what this man offers them. Now, I'm not hopeless, okay? I do believe that there's another way out, but I don't think the explanation is either ignorance or passivity. I think there's a way out, but it's not by saying, oh, more education.
Is it probably a sense of community?
He offers them community, that's right. And I think that's very important. In this area, many people say, oh, with the drug addiction problem, I don't go out so much. And many communities have local organizations, but those are on the decline nationwide. So when you go in these beautiful hills, you come to a little town and you just see, it's called a dollar store. It's a store for poor people and a gas station. You know, but there used to be a bar and there used to be stores. It used to be more of a community. And that's eroded. There are many who say that Donald Trump kind of plays to a social vacuum.
You just have to put your head.
Good evening. My name is Ivan. I would like to ask the following. What do you think is the future of the United States and where is it heading for? Because it seems that the society is very divided, polarized, and with every event this polarization, this division is getting stronger and stronger, and the rhetorics that we hear from the Republican Party is aimed at enhancing this polarization and enhancing aggression. They tend to blame liberals, transgender people, trans people. And so far, we can't see any way out. What I hear from many people, they hope for midterm election. They hope that people will understand that Trump was a mistake and they will vote differently this time. But hoping is not enough. Therefore, I would like to hear your vision. How can events evolve? And Democratic Party, what I hear from many people, they also have something that they are against. For example, we are against Trump, we are against Trump's rhetorics, but at the same time they don't offer any specific platform for solving problems.
Wonderful comment. Wonderful. Yeah. And first I'll answer it, and then I'd like Adam to make a stab at this. What I think could happen is that there will come a time when the bad news accumulates. You see that Trump is not making their lives great again. He's removing services with tariffs. He's raising the price, you know, presumably of eggs and gas. And it may be, you know, that these Epstein files will show Republicans on it. So I usually look for 3 pieces of bad news to get us to a tipping point at which people really begin to change their minds. That by itself isn't enough. What it needs is, as you say, a positive message. And I think it could come from our California's Democratic governor of the largest and most powerful state. He's, I think Governor Newsom could say, look, we're not the divided states, we're the United States, and we're not for retribution, we're for building people up. California has done it. I'd like the whole country to rise as California has. He could say that, be out there with a positive message. And his narrative would not be stolen pride, it would be united pride. Simultaneous to that, I think we need bridges from rural areas to urban areas. And the labor unions that used to be powerful in the United States were a bridge between rural and urban. And between working class and middle class, and we've lost that bridge. So we need new kinds of bridges. And there is something called the Bridge Alliance, which has 52 different civic organizations. I'm part of one. And they have names like Hi from the Other Side. And Breaking Bread Together. Living room conversations. They're nationwide. That can be scaled up. So with that and with humor, not aimed sideways, but up, I think the combination of those things could turn the tide. Adam?
Well, I don't have much to add. I think you're right that the Democratic Party, or opposition party, certainly in this last election, did not have something meaningful to offer people. The problem is we think a little bit too much in terms of rationality, of people being rational. I think in our country, and perhaps in all countries, people do not vote for politicians out of a rational calculation. His or her policies are going to make my life better. Rather, they vote because their emotions are stirred. And Arlie spoke of the man who said, I didn't believe Trump when he said he would bring back coal, but I felt he saw who I was. And I think Trump did make these tens of millions of Americans who are losing ground feel that he saw who they were. The Democrats have, in our view, better policies, but they did not have an inspiring messenger in President Biden, who then stumbled badly and was replaced at the last minute by Kamala Harris, who was not the greatest of messengers either. So we do need not just good policies, but somebody who can appeal to people in an emotional way that feels authentic.
Pamela Harris was saying, oh, the Democratic Party is the party of joy, the party of the middle class. Well, listen to those words through the experiences of the people you just met. That's why it didn't work.
I would like to ask a follow-up question, if I may. So talking about this experience of building bridges, and actually your books are in itself a kind of building bridge between very different worlds. Could you maybe share this your own experience of meeting these people, of sharing their lives for certain periods of time, like coming back very often to them, really tracing their lives very deeply? How difficult it was for you with all your background just to see these people in different light and really struggle against this dark legend and against, again, shaming these people and seeing them very negatively. But also maybe other experiences from your book. I think one of maybe utopian answers to how you can build these bridges between the two worlds is a utopian hope for kind of future of digitalization and digital transformation. And I think one of the cases which you present is the idea to transform former coal miners to, you know, digital computer mining, things like this, and we can, you know, transform everything, you know, all these post-coal, post-industrial areas to some bright future of, I don't know, online work, software development, I don't know what else, or, for example, clean energy, as you mentioned. What do you think can be the answer hear from your experience and other experiences of people who go beyond this bubble and try to maybe build really kind of equal dialogue, not to be a missionary, not to be a preacher.
Right, right. Wonderful question, thank you. I love, first of all, what I do. It's fun, getting to know people different from yourselves. Absolute fun. I feel bigger as a human being for getting to know people whose lives are really different from mine. And when they ask me, well, you know, we talk with a funny accent, we're rural here, I'll say, well, my grandma grew up on a dairy farm in Maine. You know, she had a regional accent. My name is Arlie, but she called me Arlie because people in Maine speak a special way. They were like hillbillies too. So I try and shorten the difference between us. And then I learn a lot. I'll share things like this happen. I met a man who was the most pro-Trump of anybody I met in a bunch of years. His name was Roger, and he was a businessman, and he hated the left, and he loved Donald Trump. He told me God sent us Donald Trump. He began an organization of the Eastern Kentucky Patriots that had a vehicle parade 25 miles long with flags and celebrating Donald Trump's candidacy before the last election. That's Roger. He also was interested in renewable energy. He said, look at all of these mountains sawed off. The top is sawed off because machines have gone in for the coal and thrown the top of the mountain away. It's called mountain top removal. He said, on top of these mountains, I'd like to see solar panels. This is Donald Trump, evangelist, and he is interested in renewable energy. I thought, this is very interesting. Second thing, he says, Ukraine, they have been put upon by Putin. It's terrible. Trump is wrong to reduce help to Ukraine. So this guy who thought that Donald Trump was sent by God is telling me the U.S. should give military aid to the United States, to Ukraine, and it should go in for green energy. Then a final surprise. This is the kind of thing that happens. I wrote an article 3 months after my book came out. How are the people in Kentucky who voted for Donald Trump responding to all of these measures that his bill, big beautiful bill, caused, the harm they caused? So I went back to interview them, and I talked to my friend Roger Ford. And I was worried about democracy, and you know, this Donald Trump is becoming a tyrant. So I asked him questions. Well, what if Donald Trump doesn't obey judges, you know, and the courts? What if he doesn't really care about the legislature and money is allocated? What if he's not acting democratic? And this man, he got mad at me. And he said, oh, all you people on the left want to say we're fascists. Okay, this is the worst nightmare an interviewer like me has. Okay. I didn't respond. And so what he said hung there in the air between us. And then I said something like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I think you know me by what I write. The next morning, I got an email very early. Dear Arlie, I am extremely sorry that I got mad at you. I hope you forgive me. Well, it was a hard day, and I hope you accept my apology. I wrote back to him, of course I accept your apology. Everybody has a hard day. And then I said, I think Norwegians have a very long name for a good idea of a community of difference, where people come together. They know they don't agree, but they don't leave. And they wonder if there can't be common ground found. So he wrote back to me and said, the Norwegians have a good idea, and we should relabel it. Everybody in your book that you profile should get together for dinner. And we should call it our own name. Holler, is their local name for where people live. And log, as in dialogue. Let's call it Holler Log. So we're all getting together on October 25th to have dinner.
Hello, my name is Alexander. This summer I had the opportunity to spend 5 weeks in Minnesota. It was youth exchange, so I was an international student. In Minnesota, mostly is a blue state. I had the opportunity to speak with different people, with my host family, and I saw a lot of reach with protests in highways, so no kings and so on. And my question is, what's the reason that some states is completely red and some states is completely blue?
Can you help me?
Why are some states red and some states blue?
Yeah. The states that are red are the poorer states, and the states that are blue are the richer states. And I think that's a lot of it, that if you live in an area that is near an industrial or commercial center, and it tends to be urban, tends to have higher proportion of people with four-year degrees, it's going to be blue. If you live in an area where the factory has automated or it was offshored 3 decades ago, and you have less educated people, it's probably going to be red. So it's an economic difference. And you could see them as from the 70s on as the winners and losers of globalization. The people in the blue areas kind of stuck together and didn't reach out enough, I think, reach enough to the people in losing areas.
Thank you very much for your lecture, and thank you for your ideas, your perspective, sociological perspective on ideas of loss and pride. But I would like to ask you about your emotional vision meeting Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and your perspective, because Vladimir Putin is a former colonel of KGB. He's emotionless. Donald Trump full of emotions, and how he explains the idea that he is not able to organize meetings, Zelensky and Putin, because they hate each other too much.
Great. I think both Putin and Donald Trump are shamed men. And I think that would be a matter of private appraisal. There's been a book written by a niece of his that makes this argument. He has a very harsh father. You know, at age 6 or 8, he was sent out to a military school. And that's what gave him such insight, so he could drill into the structural shame of these downwardly mobile regions and speak to them so they felt spoken to. I think probably Putin is the same story. And I think if you look back at World War II and Hitler, I think there is, and I'm not the first to say this, a kind of way of exploiting people's shame. And probably the people who are the best exploiters are the ones that know about it.
Thank you so much, Arlie, for the lecture. And listening to your lecture, and I immediately got thinking that in November 2024, Slavoj Žižek had a lecture at Oxford, and he spoke on soft fascism, artificial intelligence, and shamelessness. And he developed this sense of shamelessness, like an absence of shame from side of politicians. And I got this as that this shamelessness is like listening to your today's lecture. It was like another puzzle put for me, because I got that maybe this sense of shamelessness by politicians is in their way that they're like playing the people who are experiencing shame. You know what you said previously, that they're like creating this narrative being victims of shame. And also what I was thinking listening to your lecture, that maybe this shamelessness that Žižek addressed would be also in disinformation, and maybe it had some connections to the growth of artificial intelligence. So I have a question, like while you were interviewing these people and working and living with them, did they reflect somehow also on artificial intelligence, and does artificial intelligence have to do something with this sense of shame or shamelessness? Thank you.
I didn't see a connection. I think it's interesting that we live in political bubbles, and artificial intelligence informs our media, that aims at one bubble or the other, but I didn't actually see that. That wasn't the story I heard.
Добрий вечір, мене звати Святослав.
Good evening, my name is Sviatoslav. I have a question for you in Ukrainian. Have you ever showed any interest in the history of Ukrainian Donbass? It is the region in the east, close to Donetsk and Luhansk region. It's very industrial region, very similar to the one that you have showed us from Kentucky, Pikeville. As you probably know, Donbass is temporarily occupied territory. It's not under the control of Ukrainian government. Since 2014, that is the beginning of the war, there were some separatist movements going on there. Those territories were temporarily occupied by Russians, and we cannot get them back. So we consider them temporarily occupied. What was the prehistory? The local elites, in the face of the region's party led by Yanukovych, they also spread the narrative among people that they are deprived, that the government from the capital, Kyiv, and people from the west of Ukraine are exploiting them. So Donbass is feeding the entire Ukraine, but in return they get peanuts. I remember when I was a child, that was in early 2000s, there was political advertisement. I believe it belonged to the Regions Party. There was very pro-Russian party, which was always in opposition to patriotic nationalistic parties of Ukraine. They had this political advertisement. A young boy is playing the piano. His mother is standing next to him and said, please learn to play the piano, otherwise you will be a beggar like your father. And his father was unemployed. He used to work in the mine closed down, he has no job, no prospects, no chance to feed his family, etc. The next frame, mom goes to the kitchen, the boy turns to father and tries to console him. He says, Dad, when I grow up, I will become a miner too, just like you. And these local elites were trying to speculate on that. They were trying to hit this emotional component and the consciousness of people. They were trying to contradict those two groups of people. And this a pair that you mentioned, us and them, it's very dangerous, because them can be interpreted in the evil way, and sometimes their coexistence is impossible. And this is what happened in 2014 when the separatist movements became to exist. Of course, they were supported, backed by Russia. There is proof that Russia funded this party. So the question is, do you think that something similar might happen in the United States, Kentucky, other Midwest states, and can it lead to some sort of destabilization or even issues, graver issues in the United States?
Wow. I love your comment. And it does show that there are great parallels here. And what the possible answer is, I would say it involves bridging and involves more reaching out. But it's very tempting for a local leader to say, oh, those people, they're not helping us, you know, and they're looking down at us. So I can't answer your wonderful question. Adam, can you?
Well, thank you for educating me about that aspect of Donbass, which I did not know about. I think it's a lesson that any time that a population feels that they are looked down on, or feels that they are losing ground economically when somebody else seems to be doing better, they are very fertile ground for unscrupulous demagogues of all kinds, whether it's Donald Trump or his friend Vladimir Putin.
Excuse me, just to know better about this story, I recommend you the book, which is called How Ukraine Was Losing Donbass. This book was written by two journalists, by Denis Kazansky, it's a journalist from Donetsk, and Marina Vorotintseva, a journalist from Lugansk. The book was published in 2021, but it's describing 1990s and the next decade. So maybe you just make some parallels with your book.
Great, thank you.
Дякую. Можливо, хтось, хто ще не мав можливості задати питання.
Is there anybody who hasn't had a chance to ask a question yet, because we are running short of time?
Чудо?
Якщо можливо, лаконічно.
Ви сказали, що ви не дуже перелюбите там.
You mentioned that you feel the language of emotions in your research, this language of emotions, is this the single language? Are you positive you felt what they feel, and do you know 100% you understand what they feel? So this question relates to the entire lecture, because I feel what I understand, but can we foresee their behavior, or can we make sure that their behavior is the way it is and it's not imposed upon? Does Trump read their emotion, or does he give those emotions to them? He says you are shameless and they believe it. So the question is about the research. Do we believe that the language of emotions can show something?
Great question. Yeah. And I often get into this. You know, one method that I have is this. And I did it in a book called Strangers in Their Own Land, and it describes it very much in detail in a final, pretty close to the end chapter. I listen to people for a long time. I'm a very slow worker. I keep going back. I get to know people. And then what I did in that book was make up a story. And I call it a deep story. And in this case, the deep story was it's a metaphor. You're waiting in line for the American dream, and the line hasn't moved in a long time. You don't feel you're prejudiced against anybody, you're a good person, you're just waiting to get to the American dream. And in another moment in this deep story that I made up, there are line cutters. And who are they? They're women who have now been educated, can take jobs, they're blacks, they're immigrants, they're refugees. And then another moment you see, oh, it's Barack Obama who's helping those line cutters. And then, in a final moment, someone ahead of you in line, you're not looking at the thousands behind you in line, just looking at those ahead. And someone ahead of line says, oh, you uneducated, stupid redneck. Someone insults you like that. And then you think, I hate the Democrats. I'm going for Donald Trump. Okay. So this story I made up. Then I took it to all the people that I interviewed to say, here's his story. What do you think? And one man said, you read my mind. That's exactly. Another said, I live your metaphor. A third said, no, you left something out. The people who are waiting in line paid taxes. They go to the line cutters. It's even worse than you say. And another one said, so that's why I think there should be a national divorce, because it's so true what you said. So that's a method that you can use as a sociologist to do this. But I think actually the main, for me, what I do along the way is ask people, what do you think? And even this man, the one that thought God had sent us Donald Trump, he said Donald Trump is like lightning in a jar. I said, would you tell me about the lightning? I'm interested in feelings. You know, take me there, you know? And first he was confused at the question, and then he took it over our visits, took it seriously. Yeah, I'll take you about our late, I'm going to take you to the graveyards and meet my ancestors and the people I care about here and how hard they struggle. So, and very often I would try out my ideas. They became co-theorists with me. It's no accident that we're going to have a meal together on October 25th. They almost feel like they helped me get my ideas. and they didn't disagree with them. So it's a more collaborative kind of method, and it's just the opposite of, oh, I will tell you what you feel. Yeah.
I think it's time for the very, very last question.
Very last question. We get to see Trump's external policy towards Europe right now, and the way he's alienating America's partners. And I wonder how does it relate to that internal policy of appealing to people's shame. Do poor people of America, you feel, do they feel also that subtle resentment that they don't want to feel, but might feel toward the middle class, toward how they perceive Europeans?
Could you briefly correct the second last question?
Basically, the sense of shame or the sense of the inferiority is also translated to how you feel vis-a-vis Europe, with Europeans.
So shame.
Americans and Europeans, and the issue of inferiority, or shame, or
between Europeans
and America,
the
US, and the US.
If Europe came into your conversations in any way, that Europeans, Europe has a certain image of being more educated, all of that. So how this image of Europe is exploited or can be addressed or by Trump's fight with European Union?
I'm not sure. I think it's
did Europe came into?
Yeah. We on the left love Europe.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
But I wouldn't say there was a general feeling of inferiority vis-a-vis Europe.
But in Pikeville, did you talk in Pikeville about Europe?
About Europe, I didn't. Sorry. No,
it didn't came up. It didn't come up.
It didn't come up. It didn't come up.
I mean, did people that you talked with? I mean, people you talked with, did they travel abroad?
No, they didn't even travel, to the next town. These are people that are extremely local, and they knew how many minutes it took in a truck to go up the mountain to the next village, and they even knew these are one-way street roads, and so you have two trucks, one coming one way and one coming another, and which is going to back up to the place where they can turn out. They know exactly, how many feet, is it 300 feet and you turn off to the, they know that for, a long road. So they have a lot of local knowledge and very little global knowledge. It doesn't mean they're stupid, it means they're local.
I have another question for you. Maybe it's rather a comment. I love the picture that you used on the cover of your book. The longer I look at it, the more I imagine that J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, could also be one of the characters of the book that you have written. In your way. It's a very deep and emotional overview. So you are trying to appeal to the internal world of the person. J.D. Vance also has his own version of his history. Hillbilly Elegy, his book. He's not talking about some sort of weakness, but he is presenting it as a success story, as a role model for white shamed men. And his presence next to Trump is also somehow related, because after hearing your lecture I understand that he's trying to send a signal to people. Look, you can also achieve what I have achieved. You can be close to me. Maybe it's not true, but it probably creates this sort of feeling of possible success.
Wonderful comment. You know that Jackson, Kentucky, where J.D. Vance spent his summers with his grandma and his addicted mother, was only 2 hours away from Pikeville, Kentucky. And when I asked all the Republicans that I had interviewed, what do you think of J.D. Vance? And no, we don't like him. He's a drag on the ticket. He's going to make it less likely Trump wins. And I asked him why. Well, one man explained, he left. He left. He looked down on us. I guess he doesn't think very much of us. And he's a leaver. And as important as ethnicity, social class, gender, all these other things are, the difference between stayers and leavers is enormous. And they felt shamed by him. So they didn't actually like him.
Thank you so much. I think it was just a wonderful conversation, and I hope people are really inspired to come and to read. We have both this book and the previous book, and yeah, thank you so much.